Redditors who go into people's houses for their job. What is the strangest, creepiest thing you've ever seen or experienced? Few years ago I was volunteering with the city council helping people clean their houses after the neighborhood I lived in had been flooded. One house belonged to a Chinese couple who ran the local convenience store. They had asked our crew to help remove water damaged carpet from the ground floor rooms of their house so it could be thrown away. As we were removing this carpet, we realized that it ran in one piece under a closed door and into a locked room, so we asked the lady of the house if she wanted us to cut it off at the door and leave whatever was in the locked room behind, or if she wanted to open the room and have us remove the carpet in there also. She responded, "I'll check with my husband what to do. That's his special room." This led to some nervously puzzled looks from our crew. What does a middle-aged Chinese man who owns a convenience store keep in his special room? Eventually the wife came back with a set of keys and told us that we could remove the carpet in the room, and she unlocked the door. We all crowded around as the door opened to reveal a room with carpet up the walls, a mirror ball on the ceiling, a stage at one end with a PA standard sound system, a projector, and in the corner just about the fanciest karaoke machine I'd ever seen. Special room indeed. I'm a firefighter EMT, so it's pretty normal to find a dead body, but one will always stay with me. There was this middle-aged guy who lived in his van out in a parking lot somewhat out of town. He never bothered anybody, so the police just let him stay there. It was around middle of July in Arizona, so about 105-110 degree heat, and we got a call to go check on him. Nobody had seen him for a while, and somebody had complained of a foul odor coming from his van. We all knew what we were gonna find, but nothing could prepare us for what we actually came across. I opened the back door to his van and a cloud of flies flew out so thick you couldn't see through it. I was immediately punched in the face by the stench of death, and when the flies cleared out we finally got a look at what was in there. The guy had been dead for at least 2 weeks and his cats had survived by eating the fleshier parts of his body. I've seen my fair share of dead bodies, but something about a guy who had been in a van for 2 weeks in Arizona summer heat with cats eating his body that just sticks with you. I used to volunteer for a wildlife rescue and did a pickup at a very elderly woman's house where she had found a baby bird. When I got there she carefully uncovered it from the towel she'd placed it in, and it was just a chestnut. I used to install dish network for a living. I was installing for an elderly lady who complained that her sister's TV always showed the same thing hers did. I had a 2 TV installation order, so I figured that would be okay. I finished the installation and was demonstrating the system when she looked at the full-length mirror and complained that her sister's TV was still showing the same thing. Noped out of there as quick as I could and left notes on the account in case she called in. A couple of years ago I worked for a cleaning company. One of my first days on the job, I was cleaning a woman's house and entered a room on the 2nd floor that, I kid you not, was full of only clocks and mirrors. I've never been so aware of my own mortality. I'm in insurance restoration. We deal with houses that have caught on fire, or any insurance problem, really. Long story short, a woman's house catches on fire. Woman has a deep freezer in the garage with the body of every cat she has ever owned since the 80s. Guess who stumbled upon it after the power had been out for a week? Poop. I do hardwood flooring, and to hook up our big machine I have to get to the breaker box, typically in the basement. When I tell these people they just say do what you do. Do you need me to show you where it is? And I tell them I'm good at sniffing them out. I walk down the stairs and realize I'm standing in dog crap. Years worth of it. Old white dried out crap and today's crap and everything in between. I yell up to one of my guys to bring a hammer and nails so I can hang my cable so it doesn't touch the floor. It was horrific. I can still smell it, and it has been at least 15 years. Most people are embarrassed by their basement, and I reassure them that I have seen worse because I have seen the worst. Those suckers didn't even acknowledge it. $400 job that I would walk off now. Also, if you pet their dogs your hand smelled like crap. I'm a different man now, and if I saw this today I would take those dogs away. My wife is a physical therapist who does home health visits. She has seen some crap. Several hoarders. People who have bizarrely huge collections of curios like snow globes, crosses, and one lady who had a disturbingly huge collection of Princess Diana memorabilia, several old guys who tried to subtly proposition her for intimate favors. Then there was the one old guy who was recovering from a knee replacement and flat out said something like, "I haven't had a BJ in like 20 years. Is that something you do?" Crazy cat ladies. They are real, and sometimes their houses are infested with fleas. Dead body might not really be surprising here, but I still can't eat certain foods after experiencing it, and certain smells make me sick. 2. I was working for a condo building, letting air conditioning guys look at units within condos. I was just a key holder. One of the last units of the day was a condo. Knocked on the door. No answer. Opened the door. Immediate waft of foul smell. Just some rotten eggs. Maybe. Enter the unit. See some moldy bread on the counter. Sweaty looking cake. Condensation. On the stove. It's pretty frickin' rank in here, I say to the guys. I look into the bedroom and see an older black woman with kind of a bad blonde eye job. Hunched over in bed. In a bit of a yoga pose. Sat up in bed. But head at feet. Legs crossed, him immediately embarrassed. "Sorry mom, I didn't know you were home," I said. No movement. I take a step closer. "Mom, she's freaking dead." "Dude," one of the air conditioning guys says, as he hurries out of the unit. His only evidence is the smell, and my tone of voice when I said "Mom." I step a little closer. The woman's skin is bruised and has moldy patches on it. This is not a yoga pose. This is a settling into the bed pose. Some facts I later learned from the police. She's a young Caucasian blonde woman. That is, not an older black woman. Last diary entry 10 days prior. Pill bottles and last will and testament on the bedside table. Food I can't eat. Wonton soup. First thing I tried to eat. 8 hours later. Smell I can't handle. Dirty fridge. For example, moldy items left by careless co-worker. I also no longer fantasize about how cool the zombie apocalypse would be. Back when I was a door-to-door salesman, I had a bunch of odd experiences, ranging from the mildly odd to the terrifying. One dude decided to give me a tour of the giant backyard shed he used for fermenting wine. It was actually pretty interesting. He explained a lot about how he did it and what it was like running a home winery. Didn't buy anything from me, though. 2. One dude did buy stuff from me, waited until I stepped out to print him his receipt, and was waiting for me wearing nothing but a very short bathrobe that just so happened to fall open as he was receiving his receipt. He then asked if I'd like to stay for coffee. I did not stay for coffee. 3. One dude invited me in, waited until I'd walked into his front room, then locked the door and blocked the doorway. He then just started screaming at me. He was screaming about how you're right out of school, right, and you think you know freaking everything, and you don't know crap. You're just a naive freaking idiot, and you think you know the world. This went on for 5 minutes. He never physically touched me, but he screamed at me the entire time and it was freaking terrifying. Eventually he let me leave. God, just leave, and I bolted out of there like a bat out of heck. I still wonder what the heck that guy's deal was. Community mental health nurse visited an elderly lady in London one evening. She lived in an attic loft apartment. It was winter and starting to get dark outside. I spent about a half hour with her talking. She was a bit manic, so was just talking at me for ages really. After a while I asked her if she was going to cook some dinner for herself. She said that her friend was going to do it. I asked when her friend was coming over. She said that he's already here and looks over my shoulder. I turn around and there's black man standing up in the dark corner of the room behind me. Just standing there staring at me. I didn't see or hear him for the whole half hour I was there. He was obviously clearly a patient of our service too and didn't look too well at that moment. Nope the frick out of there. My sister does deliveries for a small pharmacy. Before one of her first deliveries her boss told her that if she couldn't handle the smell she didn't have to go inside. Well, this woman was bedridden and had been crapping in a trash can next to her bed. There was also a dead cat decomposing in the living room. Not my job, but I guess I was working. Been divorced for a couple years and I was helping my girlfriend move into a new apartment. I'm putting stuff away in a kitchen drawer and I find a 15-year-old photo booth pic of my ex-wife and her sister. They look to be in their early teens. Just turns out my ex-sister-in-law was the previous tenant and that was her junk drawer. I used to do pest control. While baiting a house for roaches, I made my way to their bathroom, and on top of the toilet tank there was a decorative bowl. Nothing out of the ordinary, right? Well, the bowl wasn't full of extra TP or washcloths. It was full of white cheddar Cheeto puffs. I used to do in-home therapy. Worst was this home with a mom with Mr. and 3 young kids. The house was destroyed inside. Chairs had been busted apart, the couch shredded with a knife. The beds were filthy, had no sheets and had also been knifed. The kitchen cabinets had been completely busted apart, and there were jars of pee everywhere. I asked if the plumbing worked. They showed me it did. I asked if one of the kids had a problem. Nope. Asked about the pee jars and mom just smiled and ignored me. I did call CPS. Not me, but my mom. She's a visiting physical therapist. She used to work in a small city in the area, with some bad areas, and she had to do therapy for a rather overweight guy who was pretty paranoid about the people in his complex. Granted, most of us would be too, but my mom sat down on the couch and felt something hard underneath the cushion. She had the guy get what it was, and it was a stick, with a large knife taped to the end. She had almost sat on the knife too. She asked him if there was anything else like that in or around the area she needed to work in, and he managed to remove multiple knives, makeshift spears, and a syringe-based weapon. He was HIV positive. My mom discharged him shortly. Construction inspector here. I was looking at a house about to be renovated by new buyers. The basement was all wood paneled walls, Spanish tile floors, and crap tons of animal heads mounted on the walls. Very old school hunting lodge style. Except there was also a room off the basement, behind a bookcase hidden door that I only noticed because I was trying to understand the relationship between the foundation and the main floor. Small room, maybe 80 SF. The ceiling had a single fluorescent fixture, recessed, with a heavy steel grating over it. The floor and walls were covered in sheet vinyl, and there was a single metal chair in the room. It was sitting over a floor drain. I noped the frick right out of there. The renovation never happened. The owners tore the house down and built a new one. I still can't drive by that site without feeling a chill. Electrician apprentice. The dyed pink curse spaniel humping its owner's right leg furiously as he sat on the lounge smiling like a madman. I think you hallucinated it. For 20 years, I've spent my summers designing home theater systems. After the installers finish, I go by the house a few days later to check on things. Fully 75% of the time I hit play on the DVD player, P starts playing, and yet I forget to check before hitting play, every dang time. Not sure who's dumber, me or the clients. Oh, and the recent one, went by the client's house to do the usual check-in. He showed me his wall of heroes in the foyer. It consisted of framed, autographed pictures of Charles Manson, Ted Bundy, and Henry Lee Lucas, and a few others I'm forgetting, plus some framed letters from them. Wall of heroes, indeed. I work in apartment complexes and constantly go into people's units. Once we were taking over a property, and doing this we had to go into every single apartment and room to check for the conditions of things. One of the apartments I went into had a room that was covered in nothing but pictures of ceiling fans. There was a bed in the middle of the room, and a small computer monitor in a corner, and hundreds of pictures of fans, big and small, all over the walls. Fans from magazines. Fans printed out. Fans. I used to install residential replacement windows. My boss and I have to walk in and out of almost every room that has a window. We go into this ranch style home. I noticed a small bed and pillow on the floor in a closet. Kind of looked like a dog's bed. Then throughout the day I notice they don't have a dog. They don't have a TV. They don't have any electronics. No kids' toys. But what they do have is an adopted Middle Eastern girl. That was where she slept. Mind you, they have a little girl, 5 years old maybe, with her own room, and a little boy, 7 years old maybe, with his own room, both with gate latches on the outside of the door. She slept in a freaking closet. I mentioned it to my boss. Said he's run into this kind of thing before. Called them Bible beaters. He brushed it off. I didn't. I called the police. Anonymously. IDK what happened. I didn't work for that guy much longer. I work in catering. The only time I felt weirded out was when we were setting up in the garage of this house and 3 kids get home from school with their nanny. They all shuffled upstairs for only a half an hour or so and then came back down and left for the rest of the night. The weird part was there was no evidence in the garage nor the first floor of the house that any children lived there. No toys, no bikes, no shoes, and zero family photos anywhere. And then the house party took a weird turn when it turned out to be some sort of fundraiser for, as they put it during the toast, the poor unfortunate colored children. They did not tip. Crazy cat lady had all her previous cats taxidermied. Work in restoration construction. There was an old lady who still had the plate that she had fixed for her husband on the counter for him when he got home. She told us it had been there for like 7 years. It was really gross looking. Also, the whole rest of the house she kept exactly like it was on the day he died. Same towel hanging on the bathroom door. His work shirt laying in the hallway floor. As we worked, she kept a close eye on us to make sure that we moved nothing. She was adamant about the whole situation. It was really creepy. The lady was nice though. She just had a screw loose upstairs. That's sad more than creepy to me, like her husband died so she just wanted everything to stop. Part of my work is to go out and do in-home evaluations for the remodeling people want. Usually, but not always, they either come into our shop before the visit, or we talk about when they want to come in while we are scheduling a visit. This woman calls and wants to schedule a home visit. She hasn't been in, and doesn't seem interested in coming in. Unusual, but whatever. They call. I go out. She answers the door, and is objectively beautiful. Slender, long dark hair, painted toenails, wearing a flowing dress. She invites me in, and all the curtains are drawn and shades are down. The house has nearly every wall and flat surface decorated with pictures of her and her husband, their wedding, their vacations. Everything is a display of their wedded bliss. There is also a long gun in a case standing in one corner. I can't tell if it's a rifle or a shotgun, but it's there. And there's a Victoria's Secret bag on her dining room table. We proceed to have one of the most awkward discussions I've ever had in a house. She talks about all of the projects. We look at the kitchen, the downstairs bathroom, the stairs themselves, but somehow she doesn't talk about them like she's really going to do them. And the way she's talking to me is outrageously suggestive. And she is hot and ready to go. You have to understand that the worst thing a guy could do in my position would be to overinterpret a woman's interest while visiting her home. Bad, bad, bad. Beyond that, while I think I'm attractive, I could have been anybody. It's not like she came into the shop and liked me and then asked me to come out for an appointment. She just called in. And then she said we were having drinks with the neighbors across the street last night. Your company did some work over there. My girlfriend said that if I asked you, you would touch my carpet. My husband got really mad when he heard that. And then I got this vision that all this was a setup for their erotic fantasy where the husband comes home to find some guy banging his wife and grabs the gun in the corner and shoots him, and they have crazy sex on top of the body or something. But the vibe was out of control. So I said, do you want me to touch your carpet? And she said yes. And I said, well, okay, but that's extra. No, actually I did not say that. I bailed. Later that day she did come into the shop, but she was an angry mess, sniffling like she just finished some coke. And I can't tell you how glad I am I managed not to get tangled up with her, despite the temptation. You have been visited by the healthy spirit of exercise boy. You will burn all calories today if you comment blessed be the health hound. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.